today traditional systems are finished. You know, people think that we only need to eat a lot, so we need to produce a lot, we need monocultures, we need intensive farms, and it's not the way. So we are like many drivers that are killing biodiversity. We have like climate change, we have land use change, we have pollution, we have monoculture, we have pesticides, we are destroying biodiversity. So we have to change, of course, slowly, you know, speaking with farmers and also trying to speak with the society. I found like biodiversity, it's marvelous. We are here because, you know, animals are around us, like, and pollinators are very important. Everything that you eat, it's because pollinators have been working there in a flower, so they are marvelous.
One of the main reasons why we have such a large loss of insects and pollinators is because they have lost their habitats. So they've lost their Lebensraum in German, they've lost their place that they live in, which is basically the species-rich meadows, the pastures, flower-like verges of roads that used to not be sprayed. And one of the big reasons is, it's been these habitats, these meadows, for example, have been transformed, like dug up, transformed into cropland, so it's gone through agricultural intensification. Or also we have this other issue at the same time, we have land abandonment. And so it's this important topic that a lot of our open landscapes with high biodiversity that we have in the temperate zone, they need a certain level of disturbance to keep open, because otherwise the shrubs will come in and then later on trees, and they will gradually transform into forests over time. And this sounds great for most people because they think forests are nature, but nature is also more than forests. There's also shrubland, grassland, savannas. And evolutionarily, this is a very important point, in the past, like we have this idea that semi-natural grasslands are not natural, but actually this current evidence is really showing that in the past, like after the last ice age in Europe, large herbivores kept a lot of the landscape open. So it was a mosaic of like forest, half open shrubby, and grasslands. And we can know that this is true even from the fact that our highest biodiversity in terms of insects and plants in the temperate zone is from the open landscapes, which also indirectly then tells us, okay, so this is co-evolved over time. It's been around a long time. And so our biodiversity is very dependent on this. And so what happens then, of course, is if you get rid of those habitats, plus you increase intensive agriculture, so you add loads of pesticides, you add loads of insecticides, you add loads of herbicides, you're just going to massively impact the system, which is what's happened. So it's not very surprising to me, but it's something that we can actually reverse as well, because we know that the biggest thing is habitat loss and this issue with the pesticides.
But also it's important because we have evidence how this degradation of biodiversity is directly and indirectly affecting people, particularly marginalized people or vulnerable people. So when you are in places where the ecosystems are so damaged and degraded, you can see how this is mirrored in society. It increases social inequity, it increases social conflicts. It might lead even to violence because they have to fight for resources, for natural resources and for access to natural resources. Through ecological restoration, we can set habitats that allow pollinators to be. Also increases the diversity of this habitat, so we allow not only to have one pollinator but different pollinators. We can contribute to restore some ecological processes that are important for pollinators. And now we have this pollinator crisis. right? Not only for domestic bees, which is the one that is more remarkable, for instance, in Germany, but also wild bees and wild pollinators. So by restoring some ecological processes and by restoring the different patches in the habitat patches in a particular area, we can invite pollinators to stay. But I think that nature will survive without that. So to me, what motivates me is actually people. So ecological restoration is not only about increasing biodiversity. It's not only about species. It's also about the implications on our well-being.
Any conservation issue needs to bring together not just the ecosystem component, but also the people who live in it, and then all the different layers of the society, which includes, governance and institution and politics and economies and everything.
Since then, I really try to always include the social and ecological perspective together, try to integrate both goals, both aims, and then try to identify which would be management options that can really kind of satisfy both needs. And that's why I focus a lot on the concept of ecosystem services that can be measured from different perspectives, and that's like a unifying point. It's not only one-way communication, I think it's both ways communication, and really understand for us what is important to people. Sometimes it's not only that farmers want to produce more, sometimes it's also they have other kind of values to this. No?
Regarding the global issue of the biodiversity loss, I'm particularly interested in dryland. And the reason why is because there is a lot of research showing that people don't value much an ecosystem without water, and that's exactly the case of the region where I grew up in southeast Spain. It's called the Almeria province, and that back in the 50s and the 60s, there was one of the poorest regions of all the country. There was not much to do, and the land was not very fertile. However, for a combination of different factors, over the last 50 years, that region became one of the most productive agricultural regions of all Europe. And that is because of the use of greenhouses. And we don't have much water because the water is on the ground, but we have a lot of access to sunlight, and then with the combination of plastic, a really dry region has become the most productive, both agricultural but also economic region of all Europe. So we export. One of the things that we are seeing right now in terms of how global food trade are affecting biodiversity loss is how disconnected are people from the food that we eat. Like, mm-hmm. How much do we know about the food that we eat on a daily basis? Do we know that this is coming from, a real nearby region, or this is coming mm-hmm. from a different continent?
Mm-hmm. Trying to promote like locally sourced food, organic food, but especially I think this thing with the seasonality is very important. Like, most of the people doesn't know which are the seasons for each vegetable. Like, you all the time have them in supermarkets, so how can you know? No? You really need to do research to say that, yeah, I think we need to be more conscious of what we buy and not only thinking buy everything organic without thinking that it is really an intensive production anyway, or which are also the consequences for that.
The most big challenge for human being is we need to think about very carefully how we can change our lifestyle. We can change the style of how we consume, the style of how we live, and to have the less impact to the system. This system, because human beings as a species, we are also one of the species. We are in the whole large ecosystem, right? We're not the one to govern it. We're just one of the species.
There's no point in being completely depressed about it. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do, One is I have people often asking me, like, people say, oh, I have a spot of land here, could I make a flower meadow? And then how do I do it? And that's one thing you can do. I think actually it's a very important one.
The second thing, to get engaged and set projects that are collaborative. We can't all start permaculture, but you can select, for example, courses or projects in which you work with others. And in doing so, you do altruism because you collaborate.
Ja, ich bin Fionn. Ich bin hier im Biergarten in Lüneburg und wir sind eine Gemüsegenossenschaft, die sich Anfang 2017 gegründet hat, mit dem Ziel, halt Gemüse in Lüneburg anzubauen. Das auch mit der Intention gegründet, dass einfach die Grundversorgung vom Gemüse, dass das nicht irgendwie über tausende Kilometer mit dem LKW und mit den Schiffen transportiert werden muss, sondern dass das eigentlich auch hier aus Lüneburg kommen kann. Also hier war auf der Fläche, wo wir gerade stehen, das war eine konventionell bewirtschaftete Fläche, das heißt, hier wuchs eine Kultur, ich glaube Mais, aber auf jeden Fall keine Vielfalt, also es war halt immer nur eine Gemüsesorte, die mit großem Trecker dann auch bewirtschaftet wurde. Und wir glauben einfach, dass wir dadurch, dass wir hier Vielfalt reinbringen, verschiedene Kulturen, Bodenaufarbeitung, dass wir hier Kompost ausbringen, dass wir damit halt auch den Boden aufwerten und irgendwie wieder mehr Leben in den Boden reinkriegen. Es gibt Flächen, die wir gar nicht anfassen, die einfach nur Natur sein können. Genau, hier versuchen wir gerade so diese Market Gardening Fläche ohne irgendwie Trecker zu etablieren. Dann haben wir noch die Gewächshäuser und einen Bereich, wo es Freilandgemüse gibt. Ich genieße das total, hier draußen an der frischen Luft, in der Sonne, mit so netten Menschen zu arbeiten und dann auch das Ergebnis, nämlich richtig gutes Gemüse zu genießen. Genau.
If farmers can change what they are doing in their crops, of course we have to change, everyone have to change the way of we consume these products. I mean, if farmers is doing something better for nature, maybe I have to think in the farmer, and if I go to the supermarket, I'm going to buy this product. I don't want to buy the product from China or South America. You know, you have to think like in your neighbor and in your nature, and so everyone can do something.
Also ich bin Jean-Philippe Genetier, komme aus Frankreich und arbeite seit 11 Jahren jetzt auf diesem Gelände, wo vom Anfang an wollten wir also lokale Selbstversorgung sichern, hauptsächlich mit Gemüse und Obst, alles mit Handarbeit. Und durch diese Handarbeit, das ermöglicht uns, den Boden wirklich zu schonen und viel ertragreicher zu gestalten. Das heißt, kann man auch viel mehr Gemüse in dem Raum, in der Zeit ganzjährig ernten. Im Vergleich mit Monokulturen, im Durchschnitt kann man 1,5 mehr Ertrag erreichen. Also durch dieses Agroforstsystem versuchen wir natürlich möglichst viele verschiedene Pflanzen. Zum Beispiel in den Bäumenreihen sind zwischen den Bäumen Beeren und zwischen den Beeren sind Kräuter, Blumen. Und das bringt natürlich enorm Vielfalt also zwischen den Gemüsebeeten. Wir versuchen auch Blumen in den Gemüsebeeten zu integrieren. Nicht nur wegen Insektenvielfalt, aber das bringt auch was für die Vorbeugung von Krankheiten, Schädlinge und sowas. Also unser Ziel ist hauptsächlich von der Solavie zu leben, dass wir dann langfristig mehr lokale Familien versorgen können. Das ist also Gemüse, Obst und Gemüse ist ein Teil, aber dass wir auch sie mehr einfach näher an der Natur bringen können durch gemeinsame Aktionen. Die jungen Generationen zeigen, wie wichtig ist es, lokal Lebensmittel zu produzieren und zu zeigen und einfach zu zeigen auch, dass es nicht so kompliziert, wenn man die richtigen Technik hat und einfach die lokalen Ressourcen nutzen. Das bringt nicht nur Gesundheit, weil es dann frisch geerntet wird und nicht transportiert und über See oder was weiß ich, aber auch nachhaltig, also das heißt mit viel weniger Treibhausgaseffekt und ohne Transport, fast ohne Verpackung.
I have been working for Ecological for 9 years as a corporate sustainability manager. So when we talk about this organic pesticide, and it is the quick answer from my track manager that there is no government regulation here in Hong Kong. Why should we do it? So you know the cheapest and the quickest and most efficient way is always have the regulation from your state of your government, or your city government, your state government, or your national government.
There's a huge amount we can do at EU level and at national level. One of the main reasons, for example, is that the subsidies for the farmers are based on area and they're not based on the quality of what they're then producing in this. It's not important what they're doing there, what kind of grassland they produce, they just have to produce a grassland. It could be one species or two, which is a totally different grassland. So if we can change to like focusing on quality rather than quantity, and making sure that we really work on the products, that the EU could make a huge difference.
From top down, of course, government need to do a lot of things, like all these pesticide things. It's definitely the regulation can work a lot, but from bottom up, each one of you, each organization really need to think over how can reduce everything consumed, energy consumed. How can we innovatively to live better and live better to the environment?
Dieses Projekt steht hier seit Anfang 2018, wie gesagt. Das umfasst mittlerweile knapp 30 Hochbeete und wir gärtnern hier gemeinsam mit dem angrenzenden Flüchtlingsheim. Das ist das größte Flüchtlingsheim Hamburgs mit über 700 Bewohnern und treffen uns hier wöchentlich für eine Session, immer nachmittags, dienstags und gärtnern zusammen, ernten dann das, was wir angebaut haben und verarbeiten das meistens dann danach im Anschluss noch in der Küche, die uns hier zur Verfügung steht. Im Winter hier können wir, wie man sieht, auch nach wie vor Salat ziehen. Hier habe ich jetzt mal eine kleine Variation an Asiasalaten, was wir hier haben. Wir haben natürlich auch noch ein paar andere Blattsalate, Rucola, Pflücksalat ist auch noch hier. Und bei 5 bis 10 Grad wächst das hier trotzdem ganz gut. Und wenn man jetzt mal hier rüber guckt, natürlich hier ein bisschen Beikraut, aber hier sieht man relativ gut, dass hier auch noch Ackersalat wächst, Posteleinsalat, also läuft alles die ganze Saison über. Naja, man kann natürlich verschieden ansetzen. Auf individueller Ebene kann man anfangen, erstmal selber Kräuter zu züchten auf der Fensterbank. Man kann seinen Balkon im Sommer irgendwie bepflanzen. Man kann natürlich auch so bei Projekten wie Stadtgemüse sehr gut mitmachen. Wir bieten Beetpatenschaften an, sodass man gegen eine jährliche Zahlung ein Hochbeet sich sichern kann und da mitgärtnern kann. Man kann natürlich irgendwie eine wöchentliche Obstkiste bei der solidarischen Landwirtschaft beantragen. Gibt es ja ganz viele Anbieter. Ich würde einfach sagen, wenn man noch nicht den grünsten Daumen hat, kann man trotzdem mit kleinen Schritten anfangen und ich finde es zumindest persönlich wahnsinnig bereichernd, immer gerade in den Sommermonaten sich eigene Sachen zu ziehen und zu gucken, wie man aus irgendwie einer kleinen Pflanze dann am Ende irgendwie einen großen Salat oder ähnliches selber gezogen hat, das bringt einfach Spaß.
One thing that I would like to remind people is that we are nature. We are all nature. This is produced by nature, our clothes are produced by nature, we breathe nature.